very much again for the invitation to speak here at this very international workshop. As mentioned by Jung, I'm also a member of the Hague Working Group, and it's always a pleasure to exchange views and opinions on the different legal systems. Now, as to my presentation today, which I understand you have present as well, these are the topics I would like to cover. I have loads of slides in this presentation, and of course the 20 minutes will be insufficient to cover all of them, but I try to do my best to go through them, and of course I'm also available for questions afterwards. So my presentation will focus on how the international registration system designating the European Union functions from the perspective of the EUIPO. So in part it will also address the issues which were mentioned by Ernesto. Now, the European Union was not able to join the 1960 Hague Act, which was not accessible for intergovernmental organization, which was only enabled by the 1999 Geneva Act. And so the European Union became a member as of the 1st of January 2008. At the same time, the majority of EU member states are also Hague members, of course, most of them of the Geneva Act as well. But there are still 8 member states who have not joined the Hague Union yet. But of course, the citizens and the legal persons of those member states, they are also part of the European Union, and by that way, they are indeed part of the Hague family. Now, importantly, when we consider Europe as a geographical region, it is of course wider than the European Union member states. And you may know that we have 3 what we call EFTA states, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway, which together with the European Union form the European Economic Area. So this is an integral part of the internal market, this European Economic Area where the goods and the services can move freely. Those 3 EFTA states being members of the Hague Union, this is a very convenient way, of course, when designating the European Union to designate them as well. And then also there are, of course, other countries in close proximity, Switzerland, of course, and now the United Kingdom following the exit from the European Union, but they recently also became a member of the Hague family, will be a prominent destination coupled with that of the European Union. Now, upon joining the Hague Union, the European Union declared that the EUIPO cannot act as what Ernesto called a transmittal office. So the filings directly have to go to a EUIPO. The European Union declared, in accordance with the duration of protection of EU designs, that the maximum shall be 25 years, also for international registrations designating the European Union. And the third declaration made by the European Union is that concerning the individual designation fee, which shall replace the designation fee. And the amount thereof was set by subsequent information notices, the latest being from September 2011, specifying that the application fee for the designation of the EU shall be 67 Swiss francs. I believe instead of the basic fee 42 Swiss francs, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so we only have 3 declarations made on part of the European Union. But of course, EU member states, which are members of the Hague Union as well, they also made their own declaration, which is important to bear in mind if, apart from the European Union, an applicant may wish to designate a specific member state as well. For an example, I have looked up that, for instance, Estonia made a declaration on the unity of the design, which is required, the same as I understand is the case for Vietnam. So when considering the European Union and its member states, the declarations made upon joining Hague may depart. Now, in this next section, I would like to explain how the procedure at the EUIPO works in dealing with international registrations. But in order for you to understand how it fits into our workflow, into our registration system, just allow me first of all to explain the very basics of the filing of a European Union design, so that you can compare it then with the international registration, how it fits into our workflow. So these are the basics for the registered EU designs. The application, first of all, of course, as in most jurisdictions, or in all jurisdictions, I assume, is assessed as regards formalities. So if the fee has been paid, if the product indication is correct, and if the graphical representation adheres to the formal requirements. Now, this formal examination goes hand in hand with the examination of the two only substantive grounds which are examined at application stage prior to the registration. And this is that, of course, what is filed has to comply with the definition of a design. And secondly, it shall not be contrary to public policy or morality. So these are the two only substantive grounds which are examined for direct registered EU designs. There is no assessment of other substantive requirements, and in particular, there is no assessment of novelty, or what we call individual character for the European Union. There are some member states who assess novelty, but the European Union does not do so. So this is a very, let's say, a speedy registration and an application which has no errors. Usually it's registered within 4 working days. And any other invalidity grounds, such as that the design is not novel, that there are earlier rights which are violated by the design, is only assessed at invalidity stage following the registration. So this is the system, the basics of the registered EU designs. And now I'm turning to the international registration designating the EU. In case of international registrations which are accepted straight through, where there is no error detected on part of the EUIPO in terms of the substantive grounds, goes as follows. So the European Union, not being a jurisdiction with ex officio novelty check, has in total 6 months from publication to carry out the substantive examination. In fact, this takes place within 1 week. And the substantive examination is limited to the 2 grounds, as I have mentioned it, which also apply for the registered community design. It has to comply with the definition and shall not be contrary to public policy or morality. And if that is all in accordance with that, the EUIPO just sends an email to the International Bureau with a statement of acceptance. Importantly, the European Union does not republish international designs, unlike other jurisdictions, and I believe Cambodia and Singapore are republishing, but the European Union does not do so. For this normal registration procedure, where the international registration is accepted, there is no need to appoint a representative with a location in the European Union. This may only be necessary in case a ground of refusal is raised or in case of a later invalidity action. So these are some slides just to show you the practicalities of how it is dealt with by our examiners. I will very briefly go through it. If you have more questions, of course, later on, I'm happy to explain it more in depth. So this is the weekly International Designs Bulletin, as you can see. And when the examiner includes the designated contracting party, EM, for the European Union, a list of the weekly publications is generated, and this allows also to result in an Excel sheet. And this is the Excel sheet examiners use to examine these two substantive grounds of examination. And if everything is in accordance with the European Union rules in this respect, 2 columns are added to this Excel sheet and then sent to the International Bureau as a statement of acceptance. I'm not sure whether this is really the best practice. This is up to date, but this is how it is still done at the EUIPO. But I have to mention that we are currently developing a new tool, an IT tool, where this examination is more integrated in our system. And so there may be some changes in the future also of how we communicate with the International Bureau. Now, let me explain to you how the procedure works in case a refusal is found. So when one of the substantive grounds does not allow the international registration to proceed with the designation of the European Union, the EUIPO will communicate a reasoned notification of refusal to the Bureau, which then will forward it to the applicant. And then, as I have explained to you, for an applicant who is not located in the European Union or in one of the EFTA states, that applicant or holder must appoint a representative from the European Union so as to facilitate the communication. And that representative or the holder, as the case may be, has to respond within 2 months by submitting his or her observations on the refusal. And following the receipt of these observations, the EUIPO will then finally decide whether it withdraws its objection or whether it finally rejects the international registration. Now, as I have mentioned, the European Union is a member since 2008, and we only have had so far a single refusal, which is only a provisional refusal yet, so it is not final. And here you can see the respective design, and you can see that this bottle contains a hand showing a middle finger, which is an obscene gesture in the European Union, or at least part thereof. And therefore, this application was rejected on grounds of public policy and morality. The final decision, again, still has to be taken on this application, but this is the only one we have found so far which may fall full of substantive grounds of examination since 2008. And then the third kind of procedure, which is following the international registration, this is the invalidity procedure. And as mentioned by Ernesto, it follows exactly the same rules as they apply for registered EU designs. So when a international registration designating the EU is challenged in invalidity proceedings at the EUIPO will directly inform the holder or its representative of this application. And then the procedure runs as if it was a registered EU designs with the same timelines, etc. And only when the EUIPO declares the invalidity of the international registration, then of course the International Bureau will be informed of this final decision, so that the effect of the international registration is invalid as far as the European Union is concerned. Okay, So this will be, I suppose, my final section of my presentation. I just wanted to show you some statistics as they are usually asked when giving presentations on the Hague systems. So these first 3 slides, they are very interesting indeed. They originate from the current evaluation of the design acquis in the European Union. So the European Commission is at the moment contemplating whether or not the design system should be revised for the European Union. And as part of this exercise last year, a public consultation took place with a number of questions on the various issues, but some also concerned international registrations. So this question number 42 raised was whether or not it proved a useful complement for the European Union to join the Hague system. And this is the result from the questionnaire, and you can see here, if you discount the last 2 rows for where there was no respondent made in the survey, or no opinion was given, if you only count the first 4 rows where an opinion was given, you can see that the vast majority of participants of the surveys considered the accession of the European Union to the Hague system to be either very useful, that was the majority, or just useful. Whereas a minority only responded that the accession was useless or completely useless, a minority of 2% in total. So this shows that from perspective at least of the users in the European Union, the accession is considered overwhelmingly positive. Now, as I have mentioned, there are also still some member states who are not members of the Hague system, and so the question here, number 53, was whether or not it would be considered useful that also these member states finally join the Hague Union. And as you can see here, again, there was a clear answer given that yes, that the participants in the survey saw the benefit of joining the Hague Union. And then we have here another slide, which is not directly related to the international registration system under Hague, but it is asking the question when applicants would like to file their designs in various jurisdictions, which often happens, what are the main difficulties in achieving the same protection? And you can see here that the top answer given in terms of the difficulties faced, that applicants complain about different requirements for design representations. So this goes hand in hand with what Ernesto has said, or being one of the main benefits, of course, of the international registration system, that all the entire formality examination is dealt with by the International Bureau in a uniform manner for all the jurisdictions. So it goes to show that the international registration system can alleviate many of these issues that applicants and holders face when trying to expand their filings. Yeah, this is a statistic for European Union design filings with the latest numbers. You can see that for 2019, the filings for international registrations in the bottom row, the first 2 rows, fast track and regular track, these concerns EU designs. So in the course of the last years, international registrations more or less amounted to 20% of all the filings. Last year, around 15,000 filings out of 110,000 designs with effect in the European Union. And this is just for your handout, the top 10 statistic for EU designs, and you can see if you compare it with the international registrations, it is very similar. So at this point, I would like to conclude.